Ni hao, konnichiwa, shalom, bonjour, namaste, jumbo.
Bienvenidos! My name is Jedley. This is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you in the entire universe from the beautiful book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest little neighborhood in all of Boston. Imagine if we are beaming out to aliens in outer space and encourage them to read with their kids. Oh my goodness, that would be fantastic. We are so honored that you are joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that, of course, by introducing you to amazing authors whose stories are lighting up kids' imaginations. Please help us grow the mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, a librarian, principal, school crossing guard. If you know any aliens, tell the aliens. Most of all, ladies and gentlemen, please let everybody know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really fun episode for you. First up, Kimberly Mach is here to celebrate her middle grade novel, Present, Still Missing. And later in the show, Kelly Riera is here to celebrate her new debut picture book, What Trucks Love to Do, Wreck and Build Construction Crew. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Fart Boy and Reeky Dog, Dino Doom. Fantastic new graphic novel written by New York Times bestselling author Joan Holub, who's written over 200 amazing books for kids. It's school sleepover at the museum. What could go wrong? Well, how about this? A snack-fueled explosion of garbanzo beans and peanuts unleashes a stink so powerful it brings the dinosaurs back to life. Now, Fart Boy, Reeky Dog, and their friends are in the middle of a dino-sized disaster. They have to solve tricky riddles, find missing bones, and stop the stinkiest villain of all, Professor Gravy Pants. Because if they don't, the dinosaurs could take over. Or worse, they could become Dino Dinner. This action-packed graphic novel is bursting with friendships, adventure, and enough laughs to shake the museum walls. If your kids love superheroes, if they love dinosaurs, and if they love to laugh until they can't breathe, then Fart Boy and Reeky Dog Dino Doom is the book for you. Because sometimes the power to save the world comes from the unlikeliest place. Grab your copy today and get ready for a reading adventure that's truly dynamite. Join us right now from the great Nutmeg State of Connecticut. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new middle grade novel. It's called Present, Still Missing. Please welcome to the show, Kimberly Mach. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm great. Very excited to be here today.
Excited to have you on. Tell us, what an intriguing title, Present, Still Missing. It implies somebody is up to no good.
Yeah, well, in this case, it's more of the emotional not present, because the story takes place post-World War II. The main character, Irene, is a football wrangling, baseball loving girl, and she can't wait for her dad to come home from active duty in the war. And when the war ends, she's most looking forward to seeing him, but he comes home changed. He comes home different. He comes home with PTSD, which is something that absolutely 100% happened, even though a lot of our history books and stories don't portray it. So as she's adjusting to her new life with dad, she starts to feel that he's present, but still missing out on everything, missing out on the important things because he's emotionally not able to be there.
Yeah. Boy, I'm so happy. We still have a long, long way to go, but I'm happy that we're starting to recognize the incredible trauma that the men and women who protect us go through.
Yes, I agree. One of the things that I uncovered in researching, two really amazing things. One, on the negative side, was that it wasn't until 1980 that PTSD was recognized by the psychiatric community. But on the amazing side, the good side, is towards the end of World War II, in 1944, there was a hospital set up in Long Island, Mason General Hospital, and it ran until the end of 1945, so just after the war finished. And it was working. It was rehabilitating. Mostly men had gone there. I don't know if there were any women service members who went, but it was working. They were doing talk therapy. They were doing outdoors activities, baseball games, hiking trips, all the things that we know today help resettle a person. They were actually doing it. But then it was closed down, and then we moved into the Cold War, and the narrative had to change. So we weren't focusing on that service anymore.
It seems like our culture here in the States, it's on or off.
Yeah.
It's either, yes, there's a problem, and we're going to do everything at, pardon the pun, Mach speed to address it. And then we just go, okay, well, that didn't work. So let's move on. And instead of, I see it happening in schools. I see it happening with mental health, with issues of homelessness. It's like, not everything is yes or no, black and white. There are shades of gray, and we need to get in there. And if one thing doesn't work, we don't give up on it. Just see what else can work. And if one thing is working for a certain group of people, excellent, keep going, and then find something else for the other group of people.
Absolutely, because every single issue you just mentioned is not like stuck to one particular decade or one event. It goes through our history. It permeates everything. And that's what PTSD is as well. And being able to tell the story from a child's point of view was really important to me, because there's not many books that do that, to see it through a kid's eyes and how it impacts them watching a parent struggle with this and trying to find their way back home again.
I imagine one of the things that must have been difficult for Irene was probably hearing people say that her father was shell-shocked.
Yes. Yeah. The term they were using at that point was combat stress disorder, but the way community members would have used the language, and in fact, what happens is the book is they call him a coward, that he's like shirking his duties. And those were things that people heard. Yeah.
What was it that inspired this story?
I get that question a lot, because it is a unique story that hits such an emotional space for so many of us. And the answer is it didn't quite start out this way. I didn't start out to write that type of story. And what happened was I was first working with Irene, who's a character I fell in love with because she doesn't fit in her time period. And those always make the most interesting characters to write and to read. And as I considered thinking about what her life was like, I went from putting her in World War II to just those years after, because that's an area we don't really write about too much either. We kind of go straight from World War II to the 1950s and miss that gap of time in between. And as I started thinking about what life would be like for her, I'm like, all right, all these people are coming home from active duty. And then I thought, well, what if her father comes home and he's, physically present, but he has PTSD and he has these war ghosts that he's dealing with. And then it was like the door just opened on this story, and I reached a depth that it hadn't had in the first few drafts.
Wow. Boy, it's you're mentioning that, we don't write about that time period.
Yeah, we don't.
The same thing, we go back to what we were talking about earlier about the way we treat different things. It's like, as a culture, we're very comfortable wearing blinders.
Yes. I agree. I think because some of those blinders that we put on are events that are easier to talk about. It's easy to talk about a war, especially one that we may have seen as successful for ourselves. And it's easy to talk about big events, dramatic events, but the time in between when we're living and struggling and dealing, whether it's PTSD or dealing with, years of systemic racism, those stories aren't told as much or as frequently.
Yeah.
And we just need to scratch that card of history and dig a little bit deeper and see what else is there.
Yeah, yeah, so important. You were mentioning that Irene was a character that you were playing with. Was she inspired by anybody in real life?
A little bit, yeah. I borrowed her name from my sister-in-law and honestly a lot of her strength as well. She's a tremendous woman and one who was out there playing baseball in a time period when it wasn't quite encouraged or recognized yet. She was on like on the cusp of Title IX. So I did borrow a little bit of that Irene's character from her, but the more I wrote her, she just exploded off the page. She is a dynamic character, and it was easy to hear her voice and see how she would react. There's a scene in the book that the kids who have read it love. It's fairly early on where she's playing football, and there's a new kid in the group, and he assumes that she's going to cry when she loses or gets hit too hard, and she does not, and she pops him one in the jaw.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like my cousin Darlene growing up. Back in the 60s, she was absolutely the best athlete in our neighborhood, and we loved her, and she played with us. And I remember teams would forfeit games because they would refuse to play a girl.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my, and I was only 10. And I'm like, that's you're an adult. That's stupid. What,
Right.
if you think girls can't play baseball, great, let her play. She can't play, we'll lose.
Exactly. They're afraid to be proven wrong, I think.
There you go.
It's funny how kids react to that today. It's such like a foreign concept to them. They're like, well, what do you mean? That's how people thought about it? I'm like, yeah, they did actually.
Yeah.
You're living in a time period post, Title IX where you're like, wow, you don't realize how much of an impact laws have had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, you mentioned that Irene in some ways was inspired by your sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
Did Irene stay true to your sister-in-law's character? Did getting to know Irene help you get to know your sister-in-law a little bit better?
A little bit, but the character Irene definitely grew into her own place after like the second or third draft.
Uh-huh.
But again, those elements of just her strength, her honesty, definitely draw on the real human being.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious. Does your sister-in-law know this, or is she going to hear this podcast and go, "What?"
She knows a little bit. She might be surprised, but hopefully she'll be flattered.
Speaking of surprises, we always are told by so many authors that they were surprised by something their character did. And you told me that Irene really kind of grew. So I'm curious as to how Irene surprised you.
Some of the ways she surprised me is with her friendships, because as the story goes on, it's still about a 12-year-old girl growing up. So there's a lot of those experiences as well. She has a frenemy in there. And this boy who she socks in the jaw earlier on, she finds her way through and is honest with herself, is honest with them, and has these moments of reckoning where the surprise became that they ended up being friends in the end. And it's this kid Raymond who she socks in the jaw, towards the end of the story. Another scene where there's like a field day and the teacher says, all right, the girls go put your uniforms on. And one of the boys in class is like, oh, the girls aren't going to play, are they? And it's Raymond, who once got punched in the jaw by her, who stands up and says, they can probably run better than you can. Yes, they're playing. So it surprised me to see how much all the characters grew. And that is a typical year in, middle school now for kids. They change and grow so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that I laugh when I think back to my kids in their middle. It's especially my son, because those middle school kids, middle grade kids, boy, they thought they knew. Well, actually, they knew they didn't know anything, but they all pretended, and they all thought their friends knew everything. And I gotta make sure that I let everybody know how cool I am and that I know everything, but they don't know nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me, this time period, I saw on your website that you're writing other things about this time period. What is it about this World War II and after period that so fascinates you?
Yeah, I think it's because that was the time period of my grandparents and my great aunts and uncles. And I was one of those kids who at every family gathering, and I was super fortunate in that we had a lot of family gatherings in the summertime, and on Sundays, the entire extended crew would be together. But I was always asking them about their lives, eavesdropping a lot, listening to their stories, listening to even their patterns of speech. So I got very comfortable with what they saw as important and the memories that they shared. And again, their patterns of speech. I go back and I look at in the text, and there are a couple of things that, like my grandmother said, that snuck their way in there. And being around their homes as well, just touching the objects that were, the furniture that might have still been left over from the 1940s. All of that just kind of seeped into my being. Yeah. And it just makes it like a natural time period for me to write from.
It's interesting that you say that. Back in the day, I wasn't necessarily a fan, but I was very familiar with the music that my grandmother and grandfather listened to, mm-hmm. and that my parents listened to, and still very much aware of what people my age were listening to and loved it. I was aware of the comics and some of the stories, but I don't see kids having that today. I think because we're living in a time where, we have a device, and I never have to be bored, and I never have to watch something I don't want to watch because I have 18 million different options to do. I don't have to sit with my grandmother and watch her show or listen to her stories. I just have to listen to the folks who are in my niche. And I think that's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more we pay attention to others and we notice little things like, what their eyebrow does just before they laugh or the lilt in their voice, we get so much more out of it, and our life becomes richer. Whether we're talking people who are writers or artists, just our memories of those people become more sound as well. So I always encourage because I'm a teacher as well, I encourage my students, please go out there and observe, listen to people, listen to your family members, ask them about their lives, and focus on them and really listen to what they're telling you.
Yeah.
So we don't lose it.
Very, very important. And it also sounds like you're a big fan, as we are, of intergenerational friendships and mentorships and relationships.
Definitely. Definitely. We can learn a lot from one another. I saw, I think it was on NPR or something, but there was a old payphone, which, younger generations don't even quite know what a payphone looks like. Uh-huh. And I believe it was in Harvard Square, and they have it set up and it connects to a senior center someplace out in Arizona or New Mexico. I might be off on the state, but it has a little sign. It says, pick up the phone, call a senior, and it rings in the senior center, and whatever senior is near there picks up the phone and there's a conversation. I just thought that is the most beautiful idea. Again, I wish I knew the exact location. I might be off on that. I believe it was Boston to maybe New Mexico or Arizona, but someone can look it up and find it. It was just a powerful idea, and, protects against loneliness as well, but taking interest in one another in our humanity, which, humanity is part of what my book is about as well, recognizing the humanity in one another, even when we struggle, because we all struggle.
Yeah. I'm imagining that Present Still Missing would inspire some really powerful, maybe uncomfortable conversations between parent and kids.
I think so. I've had, been at a few book festivals, book fairs, some book signings, and it opens the door of a conversation even before people have read it. There was one that stands out in my mind. I was at Meriden Public Library, and a father came through with his two young girls. One of them was definitely middle school age. One was a little bit younger. And he stopped and he opened up and he talked about his time in Iraq, and seeing his daughters look at him, I was like, oh, this is a conversation they're going to keep having at home. There were things that he was saying that it almost looked like they were hearing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. And the way they looked at him with curiosity and understanding, it was like, you could just see it there. Like they were going to go home and they were going to talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was powerful. I've had a lot of moments like that just, I think because PTSD touches everyone in so many different ways, and it doesn't just have to be those who were in a time of war. Right. Any kind of stressful situation like that. But so many people have experience with it, whether it's directly or family members, or seeing the absent moments of family members as well, who, couldn't necessarily come back, or the help wasn't there because we haven't quite caught up to that, although we are much better, as you had said in the beginning. There's a lot of those responses that I've gotten, which is honestly very humbling. I was certainly a little worried when I was putting the book forth. Would it ring true, and how would especially military families feel when they read it? And it's all been positive.
Wonderful. How does it make you feel sitting back knowing that, that family that you mentioned was going to go down and go back home and have this really powerful, difficult conversation?
Oh, that's a really tough question. Again, humbling is the first one that comes to mind, but being able to, I guess, help them find that space, because I don't know if they would have come across that another time. And they could have maybe Veterans Day or something, maybe it would have opened the door, but just knowing that they now have access to that. And I guess also helping them see that it's normalized, that, it's not just today, it's been in the past. It has been I don't care how far back we go in history. We know it's there. We know this is part of humanity, and normalizing it, normalizing the conversation. I guess it feels helpful to be a part of that. Yeah.
Well, it certainly has to have been with us forever. I know I had
absolutely.
I had an accident that put me in a wheelchair for a few years ago, and I remember coming back and like, I can't do this and I can't do that. And people going, well, you have PTSD. And I refuse to acknowledge that, because I'm like, no, I'm not a soldier. That's something. But, if having a misunderstanding with a set of stairs and ending up in a wheelchair can cause me to experience some of these symptoms, then going and experiencing the horrors of war, seeing your friends killed, doing something to cause that to somebody else. I can't see how you could come home and not be changed.
Exactly. And I think that's the most important thing that we all need to remember going forward as well, because we still have many men and women who are on active duty and are going into some very difficult situations, and it will change a person no matter who you are, no matter how strong and healthy you are mentally before that event happens, how much support you have. Everyone will be changed and affected by it. And it's making sure that we have the space to talk about it, and the support for families, especially for kids, to watch their parents going through this and to know that they're not alone. And although the trauma is not normal, the experience of going through the after is. And many people have been there and will continue to be there. So let's help each other out.
Yeah. It's fun. I remember my daughter in those middle grade ages, and she's very passionate about it, things that she read that made her think. I remember her coming home and talking to me about the death penalty, made me see the issue in a completely different way. And I really, we mentioned, sitting down and reading a book like Present Still Missing, and co-reading it with our kids and talking about it on the way to school, on the way home from ballet or soccer, can have, really incredibly powerful conversations. You might be uncomfortable and not really wanting to go there, but man, it is worth it, because A, you get to see how your kids thinks, and B, they might help you see something in a completely new light that'll change your life.
Absolutely. We learn so much from each other when we do converse, share our ideas, and listen to each other.
I'm thinking that a kid in middle school is going to be reading this book and is going to grow up and maybe be that voice that advocates for better mental health, that actually makes it happen.
Oh, I hope so. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Can you give us a sneak peek of what you might be working on for your next project?
I have a couple of different things. Some that I wrote a few years ago, I'm still like querying, we'll be sending out. But the next historical fiction that I'm working on, again, takes me back to World War II, but this time putting me into the war in Poland during World War II and taking a different angle, looking at the forest of Poland in World War II, and this happened in other countries too, but there were many people who found solace in the forest, in the forest, and safety in the forest. So it's looking at that and honestly turning the lens towards children again, because children are always they're our hope for the world in the future. So I always have them as a focus of my story, but also looking at the not only the innocence of the children, but of the land and how the land feels when it is torn apart and when the people are fighting and arguing, and it's the land that gets ripped apart when the shells hit it. It's the trees that are destroyed when the tanks come through. So it's putting into that time period. A young girl goes into the forest and the forest protects her.
Wow.
Which is not that far off from reality, from things that happen. It kind of falls under historical fantasy rather than straight historical fiction, but there are many children who did survive. There's even a group of kids who, I can't remember how many there were, but it was more than like 10 or 12. They walked out of the forest of Germany after the war ended. They had been surviving in there for months.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Heavy stuff.
It is heavy.
Well, and you know, it's funny because you're talking about the land and how the land feels being torn up and it just immediately reminded me of a memory of being on the battlefield in Gettysburg and hearing about all the lives that were lost and thinking the land.
And you feel it when you're standing there, you feel it just in every space, every breath, from the ground, from the trees, you feel it.
Yeah.
It's heavy there. There's a lot of souls that were lost there, and the land still remembers.
So you write about a lot of heavy things, with lots of emotion. What do you do for fun? I mean, 'cause you have to have a...
Yeah, well, I mean, even the fact that, I'm able to laugh here, like I'm able to separate. I don't stay in that space. I am so blessed, so privileged. I had a incredible childhood myself. My parents basically lived kind of off in the woods, so I was surrounded by trees and woods, and my space is going outside and hearing the birds, being in my garden, walking in the fields. That's where I find my joy in my space. I don't carry this with me. I think because I am, this might sound strange, but because I am such a joyful person, and I've been so blessed and so privileged with family, with space, with the ability to walk and to feel the earth so much, that it allows me to write the difficult things because I don't get embroiled in it. I'm able to look at it and see the hope in everything. So even Present Still Missing is a difficult topic, but it ends in a hopeful space. And even this current one that I'm working on, it ends in a hopeful space.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, because as somebody who is typically joyful and happy, you're also a very curious person. And I'm imagining that part of it is like going, I'm really happy, but not everybody is in my space. And I wonder what's causing that. I wonder what it's like.
Yeah. It's that acknowledgement of like, I know not everybody has this.
Yeah.
And my goodness, what it must feel like to have that taken from you and to not have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know that I'm definitely a glass half full or 3/4 full guy, and it just annoys a lot of people in my life.
But it's important. It's important to have people like that in our lives too, right?
Yeah. Hey,
and I'm not going to say that we don't have bad days and we don't grumble. We absolutely do.
We do. Hey, let's tell everybody where we can go to find out more about Present Still Missing and find out more about you.
Okay, so there's a couple of really good trade reviews if people want to check their first. Kirkus Review has one, and the Historical Novel Society has one. So that will give people some more background of like specifically what is in the text. Definitely even like some of the reviews on Goodreads and Amazon. I know there's one that a librarian did. So if any parents are like, you know, how heavy does it get? How deep does it get? There's a few reviews on there that they do have a spoiler alert, but it will tell you what to expect and, you know, where the conversation might be. In terms of purchasing the book, pretty much any place that you purchase books, you can get through online. Your local indie bookstores may have to order it. But I know RJ Julia's is pretty big in Connecticut. They do have a couple of copies. In Barnes & Noble and Meriden, I'm actually doing a signing there this coming Saturday, so they'll have a few copies. And also through my website, kmachwrites.com, and there will be information there as well.
We've had a really powerful time speaking to the author of Present Still Missing. Our guest has been Kimberly Mach. Hey, Kimberly, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. This was a joy to be able to talk with you.
Hey, my friends, if you are like so many people I know, one of the favorite parts of your morning is that first quiet cup of coffee before the day gets rolling. And recently, I discovered a company I think a whole lot of our Reading with Your Kids family, you're just going to love it. It's called Afuera Coffee Company. What really caught my attention is that Afuera works directly with local farmers in Central and South America, especially in El Salvador, a nation I adore. And all their beans come from certified Rainforest Alliance farms. So you're not just getting incredible coffee, you're supporting ethical farming and environmental conservation too. And friends, this is not ordinary supermarket coffee. These are specialty, hand-selected beans grown in rich volcanic soil. And you can taste the difference. Smooth, rich, aromatic. Whether you love a bold espresso or a lighter roast, they really do have something for every coffee lover. Another thing I love, their packaging is compostable or recyclable. And 5% of every sale goes to charities that help preserve the great outdoors. Because they're sponsoring Reading with Your Kids, I arranged an exclusive 15% discount for our listeners. Just head on over to afueracoffee.com and use the promo code READ at checkout. And yes, when you use that code, you're also helping support the podcast. So great coffee, helping farmers, helping the planet, helping Reading with Your Kids. That's a pretty magical combination right there. Join us right now from not too far from our beautiful Reedville studios. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new debut picture book. It's called What Trucks Love to Do, Wreck and Build Construction Crew. Please welcome to the show, Kelly Riera. Kelly, how are you?
I'm great, Jed. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I appreciate it.
Delighted to have you on. This must be an exciting time for you. Before we get into what the book's all about, just tell me your reaction when you first had that author copy in your hand of your debut book.
An unbelievable feeling. I would say it took me a long time to get there. And so it was extra sweet when I picked up that first copy. And it looked like I was hoping. It felt like I was hoping. My kids were screaming. It was a really special moment.
That's really wonderful. It's like so many people dream of that day when something that came from their imagination that they worked on so hard is something that they can finally hold and is going to go out into the world.
Yeah, it was a really special moment. And I encourage all those people thinking about it to go for it because it feels great.
So tell us about What Trucks Love to Do, Wreck and Build Construction Crew.
Sure. So it is a happy tale of trucks. So think your classic, easy to read story with your kids. It's rhyming, it's meter, it's supposed to flow really well, and it follows along trucks that are in this case the people, right? So there's no humans or alive things in the book. That's one of the little fun nuggets that we really wanted to design in the illustrations. It takes you through a day of a truck, right? So waking up, and we obviously had to add a little humor in it. So we've got the trucks brushing their teeth, going through a car wash as the shower. They've got a fueling station where you see them kind of fueling up, and one's drinking a coffee. They've got a cereal truck, Lucky Gears, and lots of other fun little things that kind of maybe the parents might appreciate more depending on how young the kid is. And it just takes them through that day of kind of knocking construction down, talking about what they enjoy about the day. And the one little nugget in there is that, you know, it's a little tough, right? It's hard to be a construction worker. And so there's a little bit of perseverance in there, because that's one of my kids' school's code words is kind of the persevering through your day. You can do hard things. And so I really wanted to bring that to life in the book as well.
Kids seem fascinated by trucks. You know, we have the touch a truck events that happen all over the place. Why do you think that is?
It's so funny that you say that, because it is really an important part of this book, is just that the audience is already there. Kids do love trucks, and my kids loved trucks and trains and planes and all the things in between. And I always joke that they're kind of like these massive machine superheroes, right? Like, you're a small child and this massive thing is just smashing into the earth and bringing out chunks. And there's always, usually, there's someone very nice who will wave or kind of let you come over and watch. And I spent a lot of time with my kids watching many construction sites, or watching the trains, or driving into Boston. We always pass the commuter rail or the T's driving by, and the kids just kind of lost it in joy. Like, it's so fun. They're just these little like superheroes for kids with that sense of awe.
Yeah. You know, I think I experienced it a couple of years ago. My beautiful wife and I were down in Panama, and we took a cruise on one of the rivers that feeds the Panama Canal. And then we went out into the lake that makes up the bulk of the canal. And we're on this little boat. There are maybe like 12 people on it. It was very low in the water. And we passed one of those ginormous cargo ships. And it was like someone took the Prudential building in Boston and knocked it horizontal, and it's floating in the water next to me.
Yeah. And you felt that sense of awe, right? And that's what I was trying. Yeah. And I think that's it. And adults can still feel that awe. You know, if you go somewhere, even just driving down the street, I don't think it probably belonged on the streets of my town, but there was one of those even larger dump trucks, and it was just incredibly huge. And even the adults just stopped to watch it, you know, because it's just this massive thing kind of bombing down the street. And you get that just, I don't know, that sense of smallness, and it's a special thing to see feeling.
Yeah. There've been a couple of times when I was on tour where I was seeing these massive earth moving machines that, you know, the tire was bigger than my minivan. You know, it's crazy. Yeah.
And that's what I like about this, is kind of like, that's why kids like these, because they're small. So all those tires are bigger than them.
Yeah. And one of the things that I encourage families to do is you see the kids when they're staring at those machines, and they're things that we've seen every day, but our kids, it's the first time that they're experiencing them, and they're just filled with awe and wonder and joy. And boy, if you make the effort to put yourself there with your kid and experience that all with the kids are really going to dig it, that you're there with them for the journey, but you're going to dig it too.
Yeah, I do think it's fun to watch. I mean, the timing of our podcast is ironic, as there are a lot of construction vehicles out in Massachusetts right now. And one of the local jokes my dad always used to tell is like, oh, it's springtime in Massachusetts. All the construction trucks and cones are popping everywhere.
Yeah.
And so this is the perfect time to kind of sit and just go stand at a site and enjoy it.
Well, you know, Kelly, if you want to find a place where your kids can look at trucks, that's going to be happening here in Reedville not too long far into the future. this neighborhood, a beautiful neighborhood of single-family homes. They just opened up a 600-unit apartment complex on one side of the commuter rail, and on the other side, there's another 1,500 units going to come up. So our little neighborhood's going to be inundated with lots of construction vehicles.
Yes, especially the cranes, which might be one of my favorite images from the book. Yeah.
So tell me, what inspired the book?
So many things. One, I kind of already mentioned my kids were just really into trucks, trains, and things that go. And I will say this in case there's any publishers listening. I know that there's this sense that there's too many truck books to compete. And I will tell you as a mom, there are not enough truck books out there because I've read them all many times. I've went to every local bookstore, every big box bookstore. I went to all the libraries that my card allowed me to. I have been to the depths of Amazon searching for a new truck book that I didn't mind reading 1,000 times over. And there really weren't enough. I really like a rhyming book. And so that's just, I like to be able to nearly recite it with my eyes closed while I'm putting the kids to bed on a tired day. So I really like a quick rhyme and a good meter. So there's obviously the Goodnight construction sites and some of those other ones. But there's not a ton. And so I just kind of couldn't find any more. And I said, I'll write you one, guys. Like this, how hard can this be? Right. It's hard. I will tell you. I think, you just kind of throw a fun little rhyme together and then you realize like, well, that's not really metered, right? It doesn't have that sing-song effect. So, they enjoyed it, but then, my self-criticism came in and I said, oh, this just doesn't work. I got to keep working on that, even just to read it to them. And so then I got a couple that were kind of close and I said, wow, this is kind of turning into something special. I really like where this is going. And my son actually really helped me create this book because I had written this more of a sweet book about kind of growing up and all the special things and how much I love them. And I asked him to draw it. He was in the age of drawing everything and enjoying kind of making these little books. And so I said, hey, can you illustrate this book for me? It's How Much I Love You. And we went through it and he started drawing trucks and cranes, with hearts, of course, because it was all about how much I loved him. And, I just kind of started saying, oh, well, that doesn't fit what I was thinking, but it fits this. So I started saying kind of another rhyme and they just kept growing from there. I would say I have many, many books written, not all of them ready for prime time, but that's kind of what brought all of this to life is kind of these little moments with my kids, and they really factor into where the next book kind of how it takes shape from some of these interactions I have with them.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I was not, I kind of knew from reading books to my kids that meter was so very important. Because there's some writing books and it's like, yeah, no, this can't read this. But so it's very difficult for an author to be aware of that and learn how to write in good meter. But it's also very difficult, I think, for some authors to leave room for the illustrator to tell their part of the story. As a debut picture book author, how difficult was that for you to learn?
Impossible. I will say my illustrator is the most patient, wonderful person in the world, because I really had a vision for it. Mm-hmm. And that is, it was hard for me to kind of let go. And I would say she definitely knew how to influence me in a positive way, which is saying like, hey, I don't think you should kind of zoom in or out or on all of these things. Like, let's add some variety here. She likes to do some spot designs to break up the flow of the pages. And I kind of envisioned something different. And then when I saw it come all together, I'm so glad I listened to you. Thank you for being persistent. And I would say we collaborate really, really well, thank goodness. And anytime we send more than a couple emails back and forth, we'll set up a Zoom because, it's just easier to kind of brainstorm and come up with creative ideas together. And some of those are from me and some of those are from her, but I would say, together we come up with some fun ideas, and it's amazing what she can do with those ideas.
Mm-hmm. So as I understand it, book 2 is in the works as we speak.
It is. In fact, I constantly refresh my email waiting to see if the next spread is ready. So it's all with my illustrator. We've got 2 main spreads left and then the cover in the back. And then we'll start getting into the design mode. So I am very excited. It's called What Trucks Love to Do 2, Help and Serve Crew. And it came out of all the trucks that we love that got left out of the first book. So it's fire trucks, police trucks, the SUVs. It's got an ambulance. It's got more garbage trucks because every time I read this book, the kids just love garbage trucks. That's another side note of things that kids just adore is garbage trucks. And so I gave them a little bit of space in all of these and how they are community helpers, and a little bit of a spin on kind of the lesson that you get a lot in pre-K, which is like the community helpers piece. I kind of made the trucks the community helpers in this sense.
Yeah. Well, I think you may be doing a service for kids beyond what you're aware of. And as AI is coming on board and everybody is freaking out and kids are graduating college saying, I got a degree, but those jobs aren't around anymore. I don't see AI. I was going to say I don't see AI driving trucks, but I do see that happening. But I don't see them, swinging a hammer or doing all the things that the people who work on trucks have to do.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, they say the labor field is like a really good place to be spending some time if you're thinking about a career move. Carpentry can't be replicated, and your HVAC person, they're super critical to your day. It's a good opportunity to kind of remember that's an important part of what keeps your home running and your community running, all those important parts.
Now, I'm curious, we talked about how you felt when you held the book in your hands for the first time, but I'm curious how your littlest collaborators felt when their mom's book, that they could hold their mom's book and maybe share it with their classmates.
They love that part. So they absolutely love that part. So I would say I was a bit shy in kind of announcing to the world that I was an author, because it's kind of something I do on the side. I've got kind of a full-time career, and I don't have a lot of time to commit to some of these things. And so I didn't really announce it broadly, but the kids did. And so, the teachers would reach out and they'd say, oh, did that book you mentioned at the last check-in happen? And I was like, oh yeah, it did. And when they were in pre-K, I had printed out a couple of images that were coming down, and I had recently reconnected with one of my favorite teachers there. And she said, I am so moved by this. She said, I just remember having the picture in the hand and the kids getting really excited. And now it's a real book that I can hold in my hand. So that's a really special moment. And I would say my youngest keeps saying, Mommy, are you famous? And I say, define fame. I don't know. I'm like, I don't think I'm famous. I'm still just Mom. But he likes thinking that. So I let him run with that. And certainly his classmates all know I'm an author, and like to check the book out when they see it at the library. If they see it on a shelf, I always hear from the mom, just say, oh, I saw your book in the bookshelf and I can't buy another copy, but it's there. And we were really excited. So they love it. And, I think their friends maybe think I'm a little cool, give me a little street credit, with the friends.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, how does it feel knowing, we joked a little bit about, inspiring kids to maybe look at the labor force and construction field. But how does it feel knowing that your book is doing a bunch of things? It's helping kids start to develop a love of reading, and it's helping families grow closer, bond together. Have you taken the time to think about those things?
I probably haven't given it as much thought as I did, because when you said it, it kind of choked me up a little bit. I think that reading with your kids is one of those really special things that probably ends too fast. They already want to be a little independent, and, it's a really special time to spend with your kids. And I'm so warmed and grateful to be part of that time that people are spending with their kids. I hope it's an enjoyable one. And I hope the book kind of, both parent and child, or caregiver and child, can really just like enjoy the moment and be in the moment. And to my earlier point, if you're super tired and reading that at night and you've read it 100 times, hopefully you can just memorize it and it can be a relaxing read. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely special, and I should probably take more time to kind of let it sink in, but I think I'm still in the excitement of I can't believe this is happening, versus kind of what does this all really mean?
Yeah. I'm curious, since the characters are the trucks, have you taken the time to envision what the different trucks would sound like? Because that's, as a dad, that's what every book reading was a performance, and everybody had to have their own voice. What about you? Have you thought about, what kind of voice the dump truck had as opposed to the bus or whatever?
So it's interesting. I have had the fortune of having like a YouTube or two reader kind of perform it. And it's interesting. I hadn't really assigned voices to it, but when it's not the voice I think, I do notice. But I think I'd like to hear you say it. I think you'd be a good performer of this, and with all kind of your history of performance, I think it'd be really fun to hear you read it one day. But I guess I don't have a set way. But if it's not perfect, I guess I do perk up and notice.
Well, let's tell everybody where to go to find out more about you and find out more about what trucks love to do, wreck and build construction crew.
Sure. So I have, my website is Bright Voyage Books, and you can find me there. But you can also buy the book if you're interested at a couple of local bookstores in Massachusetts, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, kind of anywhere you get your bookstores. And if it's not there, please ask them to put it there so I can show up in more places and get in the hands of those little truck lovers.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, Bright Voyage Books, what inspired that name for your publishing company?
So I had the very fortunate opportunity to do a semester at sea in college. And so I lived on a cruise ship as part of my schooling for an entire semester. And so when I started thinking about kind of what is special to me and what inspired awe in my life, it really kind of goes back to that special opportunity to do that. And that voyage will always be just such a huge part of who I am. And so I really wanted to play with that sense as kind of the Bright Voyage books.
Really cool. That's really cool. We've had a really great time speaking to the author of What Trucks Love to Do, Wreck and Build Construction Crew. Our guest has been Kelly Riera. Hey, Kelly, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on X, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids, and our website, it's readingwithyourkids.com. That's the place to go. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, please click the author's Click Here button up at the top of readingwithyourkids.com to find out how you can be a guest. Being a guest is fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of Kidlit fans all over the world about your fantastic children's book. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Kimberly Mach. Please be sure to check out Present, Still Missing. Also want to thank Kelly Riera. Please be sure to check out What Trucks Love to Do, Wreck and Build Construction Crew. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Daylene Rose, Advina Lopez, El Badia. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, shalom, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Yeah. Hey everyone, come gather around. We got stories and magic and joy to be found. Beaming out worldwide from Boston town, where books and love and laughter abound. From Reedville streets to the ocean wide, families reading side by side. Every page is a magic ride. Open a book and come inside. Different voices, different lands, different dreams and different plans, but every child understands. Love grows stronger hand in hand. Read it with your kids tonight. Turning little moments bright. One more story, one more smile, making memories all the while. Reading with your kids each day helps your family find its way. Across the world we all believe books can help our hearts achieve. From the loveliest neighborhood in Boston